What's going on, everyone? The market ticked lower yet again today, and 59% of stocks in the S&P 500 finished in the red. There were some pretty good moves in multiple different areas of the market, and we saw some pretty big shifts, especially with the big tech stocks. And we also saw a handful of really good earnings-related moves as well. And tomorrow is actually set to be the biggest earnings day of the week. So we definitely have a big day ahead of us. And as we've been saying over the past couple of weeks and months especially, whether the market goes up or down on a daily basis shouldn't really matter to you too much if you're a short-term trader. It's more so the price action and momentum that matters more. Those who are adapting are doing very well right now, and those who aren't are definitely paying the price. So in today's video, we're going to talk about where the money's flowing right now and the important things to be aware of heading into the market tomorrow. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, today was not a good day for the market in one bit, Mike. You can see the SQQQ was up 3.67%. The NASDAQ had a pretty bad day as QQQ started breaking down, and SPY even broke down quite a bit today as well. Now, it wasn't like the craziest move, right? It broke below recent support around 502 to 502.50. We talked about that area a lot yesterday, and it ended up having a pretty good move down below there initially, all the way down under 500, hitting right around 499. Before closing the day like right around this 500 mark. So I think the big thing right now, everybody's wondering, like, is the SPY going to start to get under 500 here in the short term? And are we going to start to see a bigger sell-off? And we just might, because we're starting to see a lot of volatility with these chip stocks. And a lot of the big tech stocks out there, Mike, are starting to reject off key resistances in the short term. Microsoft started running under support at the end of day today. Apple had a pretty bad move, and even Tesla was ended up pretty red in the day, down 1%, almost broke support today around 154, could start to get even more bloody there. So I'm really wondering, Mike, like, are these earnings over the next couple days with TSMC and Netflix going to really, I guess, make or break the market right here? I feel like everybody's waiting for these to come out, and if we see negative moves, you know, the S&P 500 could start to break down in a pretty big way, and I just know the chip stocks are so important right now.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the heat map yet again. As we all know, stocks are not treated equally in the market. Some stocks have a lot more influence than others, and some of the stocks that have the most influence right now are these big chip stocks, especially companies like NVIDIA, AVGO, AMD, Taiwan Semiconductor, Micron. Stocks like that have a lot of, direct influences to the market, but also a lot of, influences based on the sentiment related to the market. So as we look at some of these powerhouse stocks today, a lot of them took a pretty big hit. NVIDIA was down like 4%, and when you look to others like ARM, it gets even worse as that one fell by like 12%. And this is coming as ASML didn't have the best earnings, and that kind of just dragged everything lower.
Yeah, and looking at ASML today, they had a pretty steep sell-off, down 7% on the day. I know ARM was down a little bit more, but man, ASML is such an important company to the semiconductor industry. So whenever I go and I look at their earnings here, like, obviously they missed on earnings today, and that's a terrible thing to see. And the reason why that's so bad is that they actually make lithography machines that are used to make chips. And some of the biggest companies out there, like Taiwan Semiconductors, which reports earnings tomorrow in after hours, they actually buy a lot of these machines. And for example, to see them not have the best earnings, that's not the tone that people want to have set for the chip stocks, right? Especially the stocks that have been carrying the market, the stocks that have the most influence on the market. It's never good to see one of those stocks down 7% in that type of way, and it just started dragging into everything else. I mean, TSM was kind of flat today, but even they were down. NVIDIA had a really bad day. AMD was one of the worst ones out there today too, so there was some pretty rough moves out there, Mike, out of these chip stocks, and I don't know, ASML's earnings just are not setting the right tone right now. We really need TSM to come in strong tomorrow now.
Yeah, so to make everything nice and simple, the chip industry has been booming, especially over the past year. Some of the stocks that get all of the fame, hype, and attention are companies like NVIDIA, as we all know by now. But the the company that actually manufactures most of NVIDIA's chips is ticker symbol TSM, which is Taiwan Semiconductor. But the thing is that Taiwan Semiconductor, the machines that they need to actually make the chips come from ticker symbol ASML. And this is like essentially the world's like main supplier of these machines. And they have like a pretty big monopoly going on here with it. So to see the root supplier of like the chip process, like ASML, have a pretty big drop on earnings today, it clearly sends at least some warning signs to the chip industry, and that explains why it is rational for some chip investors to be a little bit in a sell-off type mood. But either way, keep a very, very close eye on ticker symbol TSM tomorrow, because as Tom mentioned, they report earnings.
Yeah, they do. They report earnings before the market opens, so we're going to see probably a pretty big move in pre-market tomorrow, so be ready for that. And then in after hours, we even have Netflix here, so that's going to be interesting to see all their subscriber and streaming numbers. I know that Netflix is always an interesting one, so I'll definitely have my eyes on them as well. If they don't report well, that'll just be bad for like the general larger tech stocks out there in general. Maybe not necessarily as semiconductor related as TSM's is, but man, TSM's going to be a big one tomorrow, Mike. And this is the earnings calendar on Friday. We even have American Express and Procter & Gamble, so even a couple big ones there on Friday too.
Earnings season always makes for some of the best moves out there. One stock that really just moved better than anything else today was United Airlines, of all companies, right? It's like normally when you hear a stock that has just an amazing day, you might think of some AI play or some cryptocurrency play or something else that actually has some hype to it. But a lot of times, you're not going to think of United Airlines, but they just crushed it. They popped up by 17.5%, and looking at an intraday chart like that, you can't really ask for better price action. So, Tom, what is going on with this one?
Yeah, it's pretty big. So United Airlines had some good earnings this morning, and whenever you flip over here to the chart, the big thing that I saw that was pretty insane is they actually mentioned Boeing a lot in there. So they had a strong forecast, but they cut their 2024 fleet plan on Boeing delays. Now, that's pretty weird to see, right? So apparently they expect to receive just 61 narrow-body planes, down from 101 that it had previously expected. And then they forecasted the earnings to 3.75 to 4.25, which is ahead of the estimates there. So it's really good to see him forecasting these earnings, and it's weird to see him talk about Boeing. They even talked about maybe leasing some Airbus planes in the future, like 2026 and 2027. So that could end up being pretty big there. Obviously going with a Boeing competitor. But I don't know, Mike. Boeing's staying in the headlines, even with United Airlines earnings. I mean, what are the rest of the airlines going to say the same type of stuff? I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, see, here's the thing with these airlines. It's like they have to adapt, because if Boeing keeps dropping the bag, it's like, these airline companies need planes, obviously. So it's like these airline companies don't really have much of a choice but to adapt. And I'm sure Airbus is surely loving this situation. But, looking back at United again, it is nice to see that they are expecting to profit more than analysts originally thought. And as you could expect, that definitely helps the stock. And looking at United in the short term, it has a lot of momentum. It's moving in a great way. And in the past, when it moves, it normally tends to have some pretty good price action for, a couple days to even a couple weeks at a time. My only main concern with this one is the sentiment in the overall market. United Airlines could have the best price action in the world, but if the rest of the market is falling lower, it's going to make it a lot harder for United to have like a meaningful move to the upside. So there's opportunity with this one, but you just have to be careful and mindful of the overall market.
Yeah, you definitely do. But one good positive is, like, compared to something like Apple or Microsoft or Google, at least they have a fairly weak correlation to the SPY compared to some of those. So the airlines will have a mind of their own every once in a while, which is a semi good thing in the short term. Just like today, they had good earnings. Obviously, earnings can always do this, but it was up 17% on a day where the market was pretty rough. So that is good to see there. But Mike, the overall market right now is starting to fall down just so much here in the short term. It's like, man, like, are we going to get under this $500 mark? Like, I would not be too surprised. And one other part of the market that fell today was actually Bitcoin. I noticed it was down quite a bit, falling under $60,000 today, while the SPY is sitting around 500. And that's not a very good sign coming up ahead of the halving event here that's expected on Friday night. Now the time switched to like 7:30 p.m. Central.
Yeah, so very interesting, and I think it's pretty obvious as we look around the market right now, whether you're looking at something like Bitcoin or a SPY or chip stocks or quite frankly anything else out there, there's a lot of money that's just de-risking a little bit, and that is an expected thing. There are some very serious geopolitical risks in the world right now. Inflation is not completely under control just yet. And at the same time, we have a lot of stocks and asset prices that are very high. So it's like, it definitely makes sense to take some profits and, protect yourself at least a little bit. So I think that's worth noting. And I think the most important thing to take away from that is that the market we are in right now is different than the market we were in a month ago and different than the market we were in 3 months ago, right? Times are changing, so you have to be able to adapt to that. And in more recent time, we are seeing more weakness come into play. So it's like, as we look at a lot of stocks in the market right now, keep in mind they will probably be less strong than they were over the past couple of months. So definitely just keep that in mind, because again, I know we talked about this a couple of videos ago, but a lot of people get burned in these types of markets because they get so brainwashed just to buy every single little dip out there, and then when the dip starts dipping more, they're left mind blown, right? So I want to make sure that our viewers are in a good position. So just keep that in mind. Times are changing, and make sure to adapt to them.
Yeah, definitely, Mike. And I'll say this, there's going to be a lot of awesome momentum plays coming up in just a moment, but I really like this downside price action that we're seeing on a lot of the chip stocks. Obviously, that'll make for a lot of good plays here in the short term. We're going to talk about a lot of those in a minute. Tomorrow morning, we do have initial jobless claims 1 hour before the market opens, but as far as the economic calendar goes, besides that and a few Fed speakers, there's really not too much for the rest of the week. So we're pretty good on that front, Mike. We can just focus on the price action and some of these good plays coming up.
All right, well, let's get right into it. A stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is SMH, and it's to the downside. So this fell by around 3% today, and essentially what this ETF is it's a bunch of chip stocks all under one ticker. And, we already talked about this quite a bit, but chip stocks are definitely weakening a little bit, and it's definitely not the end of the world, but they are having a normal pullback, and, for good reason. So I'm going to continue to look at SMH to the downside, given the recent weakness, especially with this area of the market.
Yeah, that's really good to see here. I mean, I like that 212 support. I could see a pretty good breakdown coming in tomorrow morning. And talking about the chip stocks to the downside, this isn't necessarily a chip stock, but they do make chips. I'm looking at Apple to the downside tomorrow, and I'm looking at that big support that we've been talking about for the past couple weeks, right around 168 and 167. This is going to be a very key level. Apple keeps chopping around this area, and you can see all the bounces here on the chart. I mean, these are pretty significant bounces too. It's holding pretty strong. But in the short term, with all the stocks and all the supports starting to give out, I'm really watching the book map here at 168 and, like I said, 167, which is slightly under there. So, Mike, it's going to be a pretty big day tomorrow for a lot of these chip stocks. If TSM has a bad day, it could end up dragging down lots of stocks out there. Apple, Nvidia, Intel, AMD, even like Microsoft and Google could end up getting drugged down with the bad news. So it's gonna be a weird day out there. We gotta really hope that TSM has some good earnings. And honestly, I kind of hope that they don't, because I kind of I like this volatility in the short term, Mike. Like, it's made for some amazing options trades for everybody who's been able to adapt.
Sounds like enough with this upside movement. Let's see a nice pullback. There we go. All right, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Lulu, and it is to the upside. So this stock has been getting shredded over the past couple of weeks. It was holding up in a very good way for the past couple months, but ever since they reported earnings on March 22nd, it has just been down non-stop, and it's finally starting to see some daylight here as it's holding its ground. So it's pretty oversold, and I can see it popping back up more, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to force a bullish trade on this one if it doesn't actually start to show like some signs of moving up. Like, for example, if the stock opens up tomorrow and it's down 3% right from open, then there's not really much of a point trying to force it to the upside because, for multiple reasons. On the other hand, if the stock is, lingering around the same level it closed at today and is starting to, let's say, retest some recent resistance levels or just starting to move to the upside in a somewhat meaningful way, that could show that all the traders who've been short this stock over the past couple of weeks are starting to cover and lift the stock higher. So it's close on watch tomorrow to the upside, but we have to see some positive movement first.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, to see a nice breakout tomorrow morning with this one would be pretty awesome. It only has moderate correlation to the SPY, so it's not, at least over the past year anyway, so it's not like too correlated, at least like Apple or something, which is good. Whenever I look at my next play, Mike, I'm looking at Tesla again. I'm sure everybody's sick of me looking at Tesla to the downside at this point. Today, it never really got below that low of yesterday, which was pretty important, right around 153.50 to 153.75. I'm really looking for a breakdown of that tomorrow. I think Tesla could sell off a lot more in the short term here. Now, over the long term, I will be looking to buy Tesla eventually as it starts to fall, but you can see there's still a pretty big gap between like this 150-ish mark down to like that $110 to $100 area. So I'm going to keep watching it down. If the market sees more selling pressure, Tesla's going to be a stock that I think leads the way. And even today, it had some pretty bad sell-offs, even though it did recover up. But that end-of-day move was pretty rough, and now it's right back down around support again.
Yep. All right. Sounds good there. And let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Amazon to the downside.
Yeah, Amazon had a pretty bad move in their own right, down to that 180 mark. Now, they did end up running down a little bit more, maybe fake some people out there, but watch for a breakdown below 179.80, just below that 180 support.
All right. With the next one, we have Meta also to the downside.
Yeah, another bad day by them today. Watch for a breakdown of 487. I was really watching 488 as support, but it ended up bouncing back up. So if it ends up breaking there tomorrow, that's where I'll look for puts.
All right, and then with the last one, we have AMD for both directions.
Yeah, AMD was one of the worst sell-offs today out of the chip stocks, down 5.78%, a lot more than NVIDIA even, but I'm going to look for a breakdown below 153 tomorrow to the downside. If they end up breaking back above 157.50, then I'll look at calls, but I don't know, Mike. TSM's going to have a good day for that one.
All right, so we have the upside level for AMD, and we have the downside level as well. Don't forget about the downside levels with Meta and Amazon, but these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We want to see breakthroughs of the levels and then continuations in those directions. So keep these three stocks close on watch, but let's jump right into today's $1 million big money trade of the day, and we are looking at ticker symbol FYBR. So Frontier, as I'm sure many of you already know, is a pretty big telecommunications company, and today the big money put a little bit over $1 million into the $22.50 strike put options on this stock that expire on June 21st of 2024. What I do like about this is that these put options are basically in the money. They're at the money, you can say. They have some time to them, and the stock has been pretty weak over the past couple of years, and even today it was pretty weak, and the market itself has been falling. So while this trade isn't like the craziest big money trade that we've ever seen, it can definitely protect in the event that the market as a whole starts to fall, and the stock is just a little bit weak to begin with. So it's definitely not bad, and I'll definitely have some close eyes on it.
Yeah, me too. It's rejecting a lot off of resistance overhead around like $24 to $25. I think that's looking pretty good in the short term. We had a lot of selling pressure today. It's one of the more interesting big money plays that I've seen in a little while. I haven't really looked at the communication company Frontier too much. Mike, whenever you first said Frontier, I was like, oh no, we're talking about the airlines again. But I forgot about that situation going on. But yeah, going back to this one, it's an interesting big money play. I'll keep my eyes on it. I'll say this, it's not like a super popular stock like Nvidia or Apple or something like that, but the moves by Frontier, as I looked back over the past couple of years, were actually pretty decent percentage-wise, and I could see it falling down, maybe back down to support like $21 to $20 here over the next few months.
All right, sounds good. So keep a close eye on that one. But looking at the market right now, earnings will be very, very important over the next couple days. Taiwan Semiconductor, which is ticker symbol TSM, and then Netflix, which is NFLX, will definitely have the most influence for the market for this week. So definitely be ready for those reports. And if you're into short-term trading, definitely check out the Stocked Up trading floor. We have a live event tonight, and today's SurgeBot play did pretty dang good. It was a SMH put option play, alerted at $275 each, and it popped all the way up to $585 each. Come join Tom and myself in the Stocked Up trading floor to access all of our bots, join our live events, access the big money plays every single day before the market closes, among many other things. We are running a pretty big sale right now using code BIGMONEY for the yearly plan. So if you want in, now's the time to join, because we don't do sales very often. And there's definitely been a lot of good big money plays over the past couple of months, to say the least. But regardless, keep your heads up high with the market. Keep those stop losses in check. Be adaptable. It's more important than ever. And, let's continue to practice good trading habits. And Tom, while you're in the Discord, let's give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Master P, who's been in the chat for almost a month now, and he's super active. So huge shout out to you, and thank you for being a great member of the community. And last but not least, if you are new to the Stocked Up community, consider destroying that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's end this week on a green note.